Welcome back. Today we have our NFC South predictions preview for 2022. This division was more fun not too long ago, I will say. Before Tom Brady got here, we used to have Drew Brees and Cam Newton and prime Matt Ryan, but it's a different looking division now. Baker Mayfield's here, Sam Darnold's here on the same team. You got Jameis Winston still here, so Marcus Mariota. So yeah, it's a little different now, but we'll go over last year's results. We'll go over the DraftKings over-unders, and I'll give my predictions for each team going into this 2022 season. So last year, 13-4, the Buccaneers were in first place. The Saints got 9-8 despite Jameis Winston missing like half the year, maybe over half the year, so that was very impressive. The Falcons were 7-10. They were flirting with the wild card spot for a while, but they fell short at the end. And the Panthers had a rough one at 5-12. Now going into this 2022 season, here are the DraftKings win totals. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no surprise, in first at 11.5. The New Orleans Saints are at 8.5. The Carolina Panthers are at 6.5, and the Atlanta Falcons are at 5. So I believe I have 2 overs and 2 unders in this division. So I guess that kind of worked out. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Leave a like, it always helps out. Leave in the comments your predictions for this NFC South, and let's get into it. As always, we go in reverse order. I predict the Atlanta Falcons to be the last place team at 4-13. So yes, I technically have the under. The Matt Ryan era was from 2008 to 2021. That is now over. This team had real serious talks about getting Deshaun Watson. It kind of would have set their timeline in a different place, because if they got Watson, they would have been like a win now type team. But now, of course, they're more of a rebuilding team, so they missed out on Watson. The Browns kind of came out of nowhere and got him. Maybe that's the best thing, honestly, for the Falcons. We'll see what happens with Watson going forward. Marcus Mariota rejoined Arthur Smith, who is now in his second year as the Falcons head coach. Now, Mariota was benched for Tannehill while Arthur Smith was the OC for the Tennessee Titans, so that's kind of a bit odd, but maybe those two had a good relationship. It just makes sense to have a bridge quarterback right now if you're the Falcons anyway. Their best offensive weapon, maybe second best because Kyle Pitts is very talented, but one of their top 2 offensive weapons, and Calvin Ridley, is out for the season due to gambling. We know about that whole situation. I definitely don't think it's the most fair thing in the world, but this video is not about that. They were a bottom 3 defense last year. They were 30th in points allowed per game. They added Casey Hayward. He's almost 33 years old now, but had a pretty nice year with the Raiders last year, so we'll see what he can do opposite of A.J. Terrell, who was awesome last year. They added Rashaan Evans, a former first-rounder from the Titans, so of course there is that Titans connection once again, but he hasn't really had a great season since his first couple years in the league, so he's had a couple of down years. They added Lorenzo Carter, edge rusher from my Giants, and I thought Lorenzo Carter played much better down the stretch last year, so maybe now that he's fully recovered from his Achilles injury, Lorenzo Carter could be a nice diamond in the rough type player for the Falcons. We'll see. Now, overall, their defense is not good enough in my opinion. They do have some pieces. Grady Jarrett's still there. They still have Deion Jones for now. I think there is some trade rumors about him, but he'll probably be there. They have some decent pieces, but overall, that defense is just not good enough in my opinion. Offensively, it's a Mariota-led offense as compared to Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan is still better than Mariota. I don't care if Matt Ryan was 36, 35 last year. He's still better than Mariota in my opinion. I think the only way they got better here is that Marcus Mariota is faster than Matt Ryan, so I'm sure there will be moments where Mariota can evade the pocket better than Matt Ryan would. Mariota might get a few hundred rushing yards this year, so that will help in some way, but as a passer, I don't think Mariota is on Matt Ryan's level, obviously. Their wide receiving core is not as bad as people think. Obviously, with no Julio Jones and no Calvin Ridley, it's not the same as it was going into a couple years ago. But Drake London, the first-round pick, I mean, there is some Mike Evans comparisons going on there. I don't think he'll reach those heights right away with Marcus Mariota as his quarterback, but his future outlook is very good. Bryan Edwards, getting him from the Raiders. I mean, Bryan Edwards, I always thought would be better than he is. I don't know why he has not really been consistently good in the NFL yet, but I do like his talent. Auden Tate coming from the Bengals, same thing. He kind of got overshadowed with that really stacked receiving core in Cincinnati. Then you have Zaccheaus, who will make some big plays for you here and there. So yeah, their receivers are not that bad. And Kyle Pitts as a tight end is one of the best tight end weapons in all of football entering his second year. The offensive line has some potential. We saw Matt Hennessy get better in year 2 as compared to year 1. They have Chris Lindstrom at guard is very good. Jake Matthews at left tackle is fine. Caleb McGarry at right tackle, he's hit or miss. You got to get some more consistency out of him. But yeah, for the Falcons, it's a clear rebuild right now. So I will say 4-13. I could see them getting 5 or 6 wins if things break right, but I am not expecting much out of this Falcons team in 2022. I just realized my volume was like halfway on my microphone, so my apologies for that, but I don't feel like going back and saying what I just said, so I don't know. Adjust the volume, I guess. Anyway, third place team, the Panthers, 7-10. This is could be a make or break year for Matt Rule. He's kind of on thin ice here entering year 3. He had a big ass contract, and I'm kind of happy my Giants did not skip Matt Rule. It was disappointing as a Giants fan because I wanted Matt Rule, and then he left for the Panthers, and it was like, I kind of wanted that guy. But now it's like, oh, thanks, Carolina. I appreciate that. So, speaking of the Giants, Ben McAdoo is their offensive coordinator, and I know with Ben McAdoo, we have like this really, really bad memory about him having the horrible haircut and the big suit and just like being an incompetent head coach. But I will say, in Ben McAdoo's defense, Eli Manning statistically had 2 of his best 3 seasons in his career when Ben McAdoo was the offensive coordinator. So that's not me saying he's a good head coach, but at least offensive coordinator-wise, the Giants were putting up numbers when he was the OC in 2014 and 2015 for the Giants. So I will say that. Now, Baker Mayfield was traded to the Panthers for a mid-round pick in next year's draft, which is pretty surprising. They did not get much for him, but they have 2 quarterbacks on their 5th-year option on the same roster. I was trying to think, like, has that ever happened before? Like, has a team ever had 2 quarterbacks from the same draft class in the first round, both on their 5th-year options? It's very weird. So when the Panthers traded for Sam Darnold last year, they kind of jumped the gun and picked up his 5th-year option right away. That was the wrong move. They realized, oh, Sam Darnold's not good at football. So then they traded for Baker Mayfield, but the Browns already picked up his 5th-year option last year. So now they have 2 guys on 5th-year options. It's a very weird scenario here for the Panthers. But this could be a move for Matt Rule trying to save his job. I completely get it from that perspective. Can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy? He has missed 23 games in the last 2 seasons. That's not good. Obviously, when McCaffrey plays, he's an absolute stud and the offense goes through him, but if he can't stay on the field, that is not a good thing. They drafted Ike Ekwonu. Now he's the left tackle over Cam Irving and Brady Christensen. That is good news for them, of course. So he was the 6th overall pick, and some people thought he might be the best player in the whole damn draft. So to get him 6th overall, that could be good value. We'll see. They got Austin Corbett. He was the right guard with the Rams last year, played every single game, played pretty well for them. To the defense, they got Corey Littleton and Xavier Woods. Woods is a solid safety. He spent 1 year in Minnesota last year, was a former Cowboy, had a good season last year. So Corey Littleton was good on the Rams. I don't know what happened to him when he got to the Raiders for the last couple of years, but he just really dropped off in his play. But if he can get back to the Corey Littleton version from the Rams, that would be a huge pickup for this Panthers defense. And their secondary is pretty dirty, honestly. I'm looking at it now. Dante Jackson, Jeremy Chin, Xavier Woods, J.C. Horn coming back from the injury last year, and C.J. Henderson was also a former first-round pick, like a top 10 pick, I think, with the Jaguars. So yeah, they have a very good secondary. Very talented secondary, so that could be a very key piece of this defense. Johnny Hekker, some punter news, 10 years with the St. Louis Rams / Los Angeles Rams. He's now the punter for the Panthers. That might help them with field position crap. We'll see. You have good offensive weapons once again. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, very talented. Robbie Anderson, very down year last year. He had a lot of targets and just did not produce with them whatsoever. So Robbie could be on the decline. I don't know. Maybe he was just mentally checked out last year. But there was also that comment he made about, not wanting Baker Mayfield on Instagram. So that's going to be a weird thing to have happen in your locker room there. But anyway, I could see this team sneaking into the playoffs. I'm not going to predict it. I do think the Bucs and the Saints are better on paper. But this Panthers team, I could see a scenario where things go right. Once again, I think the offense should be good enough with Baker Mayfield. He's an upgrade over Sam Darnold, in my opinion. And this secondary, including with the pass rushers of Brian Burns, Yetur Gross-Matos, and Derek Brown, that's not a bad defensive line. Once again, a lot of talent. So there's a lot of unproven young guys on this team, but they were very high draft picks, very good in college. So if they can all put it together this year, I'm just saying the Panthers have a lot of defensive potential. I'll put it that way. And once again, I'm a Baker Mayfield fan. I'm going to root for the guy. So I will be pulling for the Panthers this year. So hopefully you guys get more than 7 wins. But yeah, I think 7-10 is my realistic expectation for the Panthers this year. My second place team is going to be the New Orleans Saints. I predict them to be 10-7. So I have them a game and a half over what DraftKings said. They were 8.5 on there. I'm a bigger fan of this Saints team than I think most people are, I will say. So Sean Payton is retired for now. He might go to the Cowboys next year, we'll see. Dennis Allen is the head coach. So Allen coached the Oakland Raiders from 2012 to 2014. He went 8-28. Not ideal, but probably not as much talent on that team as there is with the Saints right now. Pete Carmichael is the OC. He has been there for a long time. I think since the Saints won their Super Bowl in 2009, he's been there, so a lot of familiarity. Jameis Winston, back from the ACL tear, so he was 5-2 as a starter there in 2021. He had like a 14-3 touchdown to interception ratio. Jameis was playing good football, tore his ACL at a bad time, so Jameis has shown that he can play in this system. Yes, it's not Sean Payton anymore, but I'm sure it's a similar system once again. Chris Olave was drafted in the first round by them. I was a huge fan of his. I liked him more than Garrett Wilson, who I know went higher in the draft, but still, I was a huge Chris Olave fan. Speaking of receivers, Michael Thomas could be back full-time for the first time since 2019. He played about half the year in 2020, but we have not seen the same Michael Thomas since Drew Brees left, so definitely a big year for him. Jarvis Landry was signed from Cleveland. He was cut by the Browns. They got Jarvis Landry, so right there, Olave, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, good receivers right there. Alvin Kamara could have his suspension pushed back. Of course, during the Pro Bowl weekend, he had some stuff go on there in Vegas that was not very good, but he might have his suspension pushed back until next season. That would be ideal, of course, for the 2022 Saints. Teron Armstead went to the Miami Dolphins. It's now Trevor Penning to be the left tackle out of Northern Iowa. I don't know much about the guy. I know he's a bit of an older prospect, a bit raw, but hey, maybe it works out. We'll see how that goes. The rest of the offensive line should not be an issue. The Saints defense is still very legit. Marcus Williams left, and you had Malcolm Jenkins left as well, but they did add Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May, so one safety tandem left, a new safety tandem came in, and honestly, Tyrann Mathieu can still play at a high level, and Marcus May did tear his Achilles last year, kind of in the middle of the season, so hopefully he is recovered from that, but May was a good player with the Jets, especially when Jamal Adams left that first year. He stepped up big time, so if he can get back to that form, it'll be a big signing for the Saints. And I think Zach Baughn's going to be their X factor defensively. Zach Baughan was taken out of Wisconsin a couple years back. He had some decent moments last year, but definitely needs to be more consistent. But Zach Baughan definitely has some potential. A lot of people liked him coming out of college. Other than that, they're still stacked. They have their defensive linemen of Davenport and Cam Jordan, so those guys will be there. Really, the main question I have for this team is the new coaching plus a full season of Jameis Winston. What do you get? We've seen Jameis Winston in spurts with the Saints, and he's looked fine, but we have not seen Jameis for a full 17-game stretch yet with the Saints, so we'll see how that goes. And obviously, not having Sean Payton for the first time in God knows how long, maybe 2006, 2005, whatever it's been, that's going to be different as well for this team, so we'll see how that goes. I do think they'll give Tampa Bay more of a run than people think. I don't have them winning the division, but I will say, if Tampa continues to get injured, I would not be shocked if the Saints won this division. I will put it that way. So I'm a bit higher on the Saints and Panthers than most people are, but I still have the Buccaneers in first place. And yes, number one, I do have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have them at 11-6 this year, which is below the 11.5 win total, but still 11-6 is very good. They have a new head coach, Todd Bowles. Bruce Arians, of course, was kind of given, I think Tom Brady gave them an ultimatum, like, hey, you got to get Bruce Arians out of here, and I'll come back. So that's pretty much what happened. It seems like Bruce Arians now has a front office role. So Todd Bowles, who was the Jets head coach for 4 seasons, he did have a 10-6 year with the Jets, then things kind of got bad after that, but still, he did have some head coaching success at one point. Byron Leftwich is the OC, but Tom Brady is there, and I think Tom Brady is probably older than Byron Leftwich, I would think. Maybe they're probably around the same age, but yeah, it's kind of funny. But Tom Brady, yeah, when you have him, you don't really need an OC anyway. Chris Godwin coming back from the ACL tear. Ryan Jensen, the center, could be out for months or even the entire season, so they got to get Godwin back, but I don't think they'll rush him back. I do love the addition of Russell Gage from the Falcons. That should help out a lot. It seems like every time Tom Brady gets his hands on a smaller slot receiver, Russell Gage is like 6 foot, but like going back to Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, and even Chris Godwin playing the slot the last couple of years, he had such a great connection with those guys, and if Godwin's out, that should be Russell Gage's role, so they'll be fine there. And getting Shaq Mason from the Patriots for like nothing was great. Of course, he was a former teammate with Tom Brady for a while in New England. They did lose Rob Gronkowski. That's definitely big, especially for the blocking, because he is a great run blocker. They did add Kyle Rudolph, who I did watch last year with the Giants. He did not look good at all. He looked very washed, but he was coming off foot surgery, so maybe we give him a bit of a pass there. I don't know. I would not expect much, though, if you're a Bucs fan, out of Kyle Rudolph. But if one guy can really save him, I guess Tom Brady could be that guy. Defensively, they got Akeem Hicks on the defensive line. They got him from the Bears. Now, Joe Tryon, who was a first-round pick a couple years back, he's going to be a full-time guy now because Jason Pierre-Paul was not re-signed. He's still a free agent, so now this is Joe Tryon's job. But he looked very good at times last year, so I'm excited to see what he can do in a full season. You still have your two linebackers, Levante David, Devin White. Those guys are great, of course. In the secondary, they added Keanu Neal, who I believe was a first-round pick with the Falcons back in, 2015, 2016. They also got Logan Ryan, former Giant, former Patriot, former teammate of Tom Brady. So those guys are nice secondary depth, but you still have Carlton Davis, you still have Sean Murphy-Bunting, you still have Jamel Dean, Ross Cockrell. So yeah, that secondary should be fine as well. So once again, with Tampa, it comes down to injuries. Can you keep Tom Brady upright? The weapons got to stay healthy. There was the whole report about Leonard Fournette was looking really big coming into training camp, but I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm not really too concerned about that. So yeah, the Buccaneers should be fine, but I could see them kind of coasting through the regular season. They might face some injuries at some point, so that's why I have them at 11-6 and not like 13-4 or something like that. But hey, they could definitely do it because they did it last year. I just think losing Jensen, losing Gronkowski, losing even Antonio Brown, Alex Kappa, Ali Marpet, like they lost some guys this team. So I don't think they'll be as good as they were the last couple years, but they'll still be one of the better teams in the NFC. So don't worry about it if you're a Tampa fan. All that matters is January and February. You guys know that. So anyway, I have 11-6. So to go down my list once again, I have the Falcons at 4-13. I have the Panthers at 7-10, the Saints at 10-7, and the Buccaneers at 11-6. That'll do it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Leave in the comments, once again, your predictions for this NFC South in 2022, and I'll talk to you guys next time.